And if you'd like to support Taos Search and Rescue, we're trying to raise our annual budget for our next operating year. Normally, we do a lot of this in person around town in Taos, collecting donations, standing outside of various shops around town. But due to the COVID pandemic, we're doing it all online, just like life has moved online and onto Zoom. That's where we are doing this as well. So to donate this year, rather than giving us your change in person, consider going to sar-taos.org, and there is a PayPal link where you can give as little as $1 or $2, and that really matters and that really adds up. And we would be happy to take those donations. And we've also got a GoFundMe campaign if you prefer that route. That's at give2tsar.org. So those are the two websites to remember. One of them's down there at the bottom. And don't forget sar-taos.org as well. And today I'm here with Chris Kodey, who is the man who kind of makes the ship run in a lot of ways, in terms of putting in the hours as our training officer. I think he might be putting in as much as anyone else, and then also showing up to a lot of the missions. I can recall responding to a midnight Sunday night mission. And who is there but Chris to drive the van down to Santa Fe? That was you and I and a few others on a very chilly and long night last year. So, Chris, how are you doing?
I'm doing well, Eric. How about yourself?
I'm doing pretty good. It's been a long weekend, but it's been a fun weekend. And we've been raising some money. It's been cool to see the amount of support that we're getting from people around, not just New Mexico, but also the country. So that's been really cool. So yeah, you are our training officer, and tell me a little bit about what that entails. And the kind of training is kind of obviously important, but maybe go into a little bit more of why it is so important and how you approach it.
Yep. So training on TSAR kind of falls into two different categories. We have our general team trainings, which is basic search and rescue skills, and then our unit trainings. But it might be obvious, but training in search and rescue is essential so we can do our mission to the best of our abilities, but more importantly, not get hurt ourselves. That's probably the most important aspect. Is we always like to say we don't want to turn one mission into two. That's the best way I can describe it.
Right. And so, you lead all sorts of trainings on, everything from orienteering up to, you also lead the winter skills unit. So everything from, like how to use a compass down to, how to work an avalanche probe. How do you put together this pretty comprehensive curriculum?
I use a lot of references. For the most part, I reference the NASAR standards, which is the National Organization for Search and Rescue. I think it's National Association of Search and Rescue. And they've laid forth some standards for search and rescue in the United States. And essentially what I do is I just read their curriculum and then I use it to our liking. So like you said, anything from orienteering to survival, anything along those lines that's kind of the standard that I use. And then as I've done this longer, I've kind of adjusted it to what I think our team needs.
Right. And, so maybe you can kind of run through what some of the things that you try to teach us are, like just some of the basic standards that we're trying to live up to.
Yeah. So, first and foremost, search and rescue runs on the incident command system, which is ICS. And that is how we operate our missions. We have an incident commander, and then the people below that who fall in line beneath the incident commander. That's probably one of the foremost things that I would like to train, and that just keeps the mission organized as we're performing it. So ICS is a big crucial part of it. Maps and navigation, orienteering, as you discussed, that's how we avoid getting lost ourselves in the wilderness. So that's highly important for our team. But other things that might not be so obvious are things like tracking. So how to track people in the wilderness, follow their footsteps, things of that nature. Helicopter safety, we do work with helicopters a decent amount, and we want to be sure that we're working with them properly and we know what we're doing. ELT, which is locating downed aircraft. Some people might not see that as obvious, but we do train in how to locate downed aircraft. Let's see, what else do I have on my list here? Survival. So in case we get ourselves into a situation where we need to be out longer than expected, training in survival techniques. And then probably one of the more important things is safety. How to keep ourselves safe on missions. Because like I said, we don't want to turn one mission into two, and safety is a huge priority on search and rescue. So training in how to be safe on SAR missions and not get ourselves into trouble is a big aspect of it.
Yeah, and so typically during non-COVID times, we have like one classroom training, and then we also will go out into the field each weekend when possible. For folks that have never experienced what a training's like, maybe kind of run through what a typical field training entails.
Okay. So for the most part, like you said, in pre-COVID times, we would hold field trainings once a month. And a field training could be anything from an orienteering course to once a year we do a training with the National Guard and their Black Hawk helicopters on helicopter safety. But for the most part, my training style is I like to set up our trainings as a mock search. So it's as if you're on an actual mission, and during that training, we go through all of the protocols that would be followed on a mission. So showing up to base, signing in, getting a briefing, getting your radios, getting all your equipment, getting your team ready, and then going out and performing your task, whether that task is doing a line search or an area search or being a relay for communications. So going out, performing your task, coming back, hopefully finding the subject, and then coming back for a debriefing. So I've found that it's been very helpful for our team to structure them as actual missions, because it kind of gives people a taste of what to expect when we do get an actual mission.
And another thing with all that you're doing, I mean, how many hours go into all this, preparing? Because I know like we'll show up for a field training on like a Saturday, and like you've basically been out there the day before to set it up and run through it. So you're like basically doing it twice. So I mean, how many hours is going into all this?
So to set up a field training, I'd generally put I'd say 10 to 20 hours in, and that's at home, setting up the mapping, setting up the actual fake mission. And then it probably takes me another 4 to 5 hours out in the field of putting out clues and putting out the subject and getting everything kind of prepared for the next day. So I would say, yeah, 10 to 20 hours for each field training, and then in our classroom trainings, another 10 hours or so. So it takes quite a bit of time, but thankfully I enjoy it.
And it shows for sure. They're usually a lot of fun. And obviously, you're a volunteer, like we're all volunteers. So this is, all on your time. And then on top of that, there's the different equipment that has to be maintained. And since we're here raising money, I wonder, the money that we raise that goes towards training, it's one of the larger line items. We went over our budget earlier this week with our treasurer Chelsea, and I think last year it was something like $10,000 or $11,000 goes to training. What does that pay for?
Essentially it pays for one. It pays to train personnel. So sometimes we'll send personnel to official trainings such as avalanche trainings or rope rescue trainings, things of that nature, that I personally don't have time to train them on or get them certified in. So training personnel, and then in terms of equipment, it goes towards things like, anything as small as trail tape, to mark things, clues, different types of clues. It's just so many small items that kind of goes towards that I run through as the year goes on.
Gotcha. And since you clearly don't
Eric, you still there? I think I might have lost you. Hello? All right, looks like my feed to Eric cut out. I'm not sure what happened there. All right. Eric has lost his internet connection. So I'm here live with you on Taos Search and Rescue's Facebook page. My name is Chris Kodey. I'm the training officer for Taos Search and Rescue. And we were kind of just discussing the basics of what my role is in search and rescue. What I like to essentially say is my main role is to train the team how to perform rescues safely in a wilderness environment. And the most important thing in search and rescue is to not turn one mission into two. And so getting the subject home, finding the subject is incredibly important. But the most important aspect for search and rescue is to just avoid getting ourselves into trouble as much as possible. Our safety is priority. And you're back. Well, I'm not. Let's see if I can get any audio from you, Eric. Can you hear me?
Yeah. Can you hear
There
me
you
now?
are. Okay. Sweet.
Yeah,
Yep.
the power flashed out and killed the internet here for a couple of minutes. So
That's all right.
I think we're back. Let me see.
Looks like it.
I think we'll see if we're still live streaming or if I'm going to need to restart this. In fact, I might just restart it, and then we can kind of just start talking about winter skills, maybe.
Okay.
Yeah, looks like somehow we're still online. Okay.
Yeah, it said it was on air, so I kind of just kept talking about certain, training. So.
Oh, okay. All right, great. Well, then we can just kind of keep moving. Sorry about that, everybody. Power is a fleeting thing sometimes on the mesa. So yeah, let's maybe move into winter skills, because if you weren't spending enough time on the general training, you're also heading up the winter skills unit, and that is just kind of getting going here for the season. And so, what is winter skills unit?
So let me back up just a quick second. So earlier in the video, I kind of discussed that we have general team trainings, and then TSAR is also divided into different units. We have units like a K9 unit, drone unit, a high angle unit, and those are just specialty units where our team members can kind of dive into a specific area and train in a specific subject and get more knowledge. So the winter skills unit is essentially a unit that is dedicated to performing rescues in a wintertime environment, and more specifically avalanche terrain. So Taos has a lot of avalanche terrain, especially up near Taos Ski Valley. So we train our team members how to identify that and avoid problems in the wintertime.
Right, and so that, and then on top of the general trainings, that also will do a classroom training for winter skills and just kind of go over, a lot of the features of different terrain and different types of snow pack that you might run into, and then also go out into the field and work with avalanche probes and beacons and all that kind of fun stuff. For people who don't have that kind of training, and you have a lot of experience in the backcountry, since we're moving into the winter season here, what are just some kind of basic safety tips for traveling through winter terrain or avalanche terrain?
First and foremost, the thing I can recommend the most if you're trying to travel through avalanche terrain as a novice is to take a avalanche level 1 course, and that's generally offered through AIARE, the American Avalanche Institute. Avalanche level 1 will give you all the basics to travel through avalanche terrain safely. For those who can't take that course, my recommendation is during the wintertime, if you don't know what you're doing, is to avoid slopes over 15 to 20 degrees that are covered in snow. And not only just avoid those slopes, but avoid traveling underneath those slopes. So for folks who live in the Taos area, I know a very popular trail is the Williams Lake Trail. Not a lot of folks know that that trail comes very, very close to a lot of prominent avalanche paths. So people just need to be aware that they can get themselves into trouble if they're expecting to go on a nice wintertime hike up to Williams Lake, expecting it to be the same as it is in the summertime. They need to be aware that those slopes can slide at any time. And if they're going to be recreating in that area, they need to have the proper training and equipment. And equipment's going to be a beacon, shovel, and a probe. The three of those: beacon, shovel, probe. And but really having the knowledge is first and foremost. If you don't have the knowledge, go for a nice hike in some flatland areas like a Mole Canyon, or something of that nature that is flat and still snow covered. You still get the experience of being outside in the wintertime. But essentially, if you don't have the training, you really need to avoid steep snow-covered slopes at all costs.
Yeah, and I think that's probably going to come as a shock to a lot of people that Williams Lake Trail, probably the most popular trail, alpine trail at least in the area, like that. I mean, what you're saying is that is avalanche terrain, or at least it is avalanche runout terrain, which is, I guess, the same thing.
Yep, exactly. Especially when they had the old trail there, which a lot of folks still like to hike. That trail went right underneath 5 prominent slide paths before you even got to the lake. And if you're at the bottom of that and an avalanche decides it wants to go, you will get buried. There's no question about it. You can, for a lot of folks who are up there, and if you hike that trail regularly, you can see trees that are bent in half. And if a tree is bent in half, just imagine what it's going to do to you. So I just like to give people a really fair warning with that trail in particular, that a lot of folks, it's an easy hike. It's a 2-mile hike. The grade is super easy. It's a really nice snowshoe in the winter, but you really just need to be aware that that is some serious avalanche terrain that you're wandering through.
Yeah, this is a fact that is not really publicized. I mean, I lived here for 15 years and never realized that. So, when people are out, snowshoeing, Nordic skiing, or just kind of walking around in the winter, nobody's telling them that that's avalanche terrain. So what are some of the things that they should be looking for them to maybe realize, oh, this might be a little bit more dangerous trail than I thought? You mentioned the bent trees and kind of the slopes. What do you look for specifically?
Yeah, I mean, definitely for a novice, I would be wary of any slope that's above about 20 degrees that's covered in snow, that has a definitive snowpack. That's first and foremost. If it's a steep snow-covered slope, then it can slide. And if you're kind of looking for clues, as if this is avalanche terrain, things such as very small trees that just can't seem to grow up. It's because they keep getting knocked down by avalanches. You can look for broken tree limbs at the bottom of trees. It's called flagging. And especially on the uphill side of the trees, you'll see that if this is my tree and this is the uphill side, all the tree limbs on this side will be broken off. And that's because avalanches keep coming through and ripping them off. It's called flagging. So really where there's no growth on trees and there seems to be a significant amount of damage, that can be one of the number one indicators that you're nearing or close to a slide path. And then also, I mean, just clearings. Taos Ski Valley in particular is just riddled with avalanche terrain. There's so many different slide paths I couldn't tell you, couldn't begin to tell you. But just avoiding snow-covered slopes if you don't know what you're doing is probably to do.
I mean, there's also other dangers for winter travel besides avalanches. What are just some basic tips for if you're going out in the winter for a hike? What do you need to have with you? How do you need to prepare?
Yeah, so if you're going out in the winter for a hike, you need your basic hiking equipment. But hypothermia is definitely a new factor that we've thrown in there. So you need to have extra layers. You need to have layers that are appropriate for the weather. And then I would recommend, bringing extra socks, an extra pair of gloves in case they get wet. Um, Basically, you need to be able to change out your whole outfit just in case something happens where all of your equipment gets wet. You need to be able to have equipment to start a fire. Um, be able to build a shelter, and whatever shelter that might be. It could just be a small bivy sack. Um, but it depends on what kind of hike you're going for. But the way I like to put it is you should be able to spend the night in a comfortably. You shouldn't be you should have enough equipment to spend a night comfortably and not be freezing and miserable, I guess is the best way to put it.
It's been eye-opening to me on a couple of winter missions that, we have our packs as search and rescue volunteers where we've got all the gear that we need to be able to, stay the night and stay warm and stay hydrated and, stay fed, have some energy, some snacks. But you get out onto a mission where there's, somebody's either gotten stuck or maybe they weren't prepared, didn't have the necessary supplies. And so what immediately happens is somebody on the crew, the search and rescue unit ends up giving their stuff to the subject. So in reality, you need to bring enough for two when you're on a mission in the winter. It's something that was a bit eye-opening to me on the first few missions.
Yeah, and I can be a lot of my friends like to call me a little bit of an alarmist because I'm over prepared. And and 99 times out of 100, all of that extra stuff I'm carrying in my pack when I'm just going for a regular hike, I won't use, but that one time out of 100, and if I don't have it, I'm going to be very upset with myself, and it could potentially turn into a dangerous situation. So, just being prepared, and you're going to have to put up with carrying an extra 5 pounds on your back, but you're going to be a whole lot happier when you get into a situation where you're going to need that equipment.
And to put it in perspective, it's not really alarmist when you consider that compared to many places in the world, conditions conspire here in northern New Mexico to really create some of the most dangerous conditions between the wind and the type of snow and the type of steep terrain that we have around here, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Taos and northern New Mexico is a continental snowpack, which means it's away from the coast. It's dry here. We have a relatively shallow snowpack. We get tons of wind, and then we get very, in the dead of winter, we get very cold, calm, clear nights. And the combination of those factors, I'm not going to go into detail. You guys will learn that in your avalanche courses. But the combination of all those factors makes our snowpack extremely reactive and extremely dangerous. So we get very big slab avalanches, which are the #1 killer of people who are caught in avalanche accidents. So just the combination of everything, and we have steep terrain to throw on top of that. We have the steep snow-covered slopes that I've discussed earlier, just to throw on top of that. And the combination of everything we have really makes it hazardous, and you really need to know what you're doing.
You're not here right now, but people who are in Taos at the moment. I mean, you're not in Taos right now. I hope you're really here. Hologram, Chris, I would take, but yes. So last night there was a very, very wind-driven, heavy, wet snow, and I'm looking up at from my place. I'm looking at Pickery's Peak, and it's got a fresh coat, and I'm thinking those aren't the ideal conditions to be doing much in the backcountry up around the Wheeler and Taos Ski Valley area right now. So definitely be careful out there.
Yeah. Just the #1 message is to know what you're doing, and if you don't know what you're doing, then just back off and go to some easier terrain, and go get proper training. They offer courses in Silverton. Hopefully, we'll be offering a course here in Taos for an avalanche level 1, and just to get some basic training. If you want to be recreating during the wintertime near steep slopes, just be very wary, I guess is the best way to put it.
And a great way to get training is also to do what I've done, which is to join Taos Search and Rescue and join the Winter Skills Unit. And it's been a really fantastic way to I mean, it's great to go do those Avi 1 and Avi 2 courses, pay a few $100 and spend a weekend doing an intensive, but it's also been great over the last couple of years to, do it, one weekend a month and then one classroom class every couple of weeks, and to really learn and meet some cool people and get to do a lot of cool stuff. And we're always looking for folks for Winter Skills Unit, correct?
Oh yeah, absolutely. That's, you bring up a good point, Eric. That's the number one way I would recommend getting the training. Just because we love having new people. It's always good to get new perspective on things from bringing folks from, and then teaching them, and we'll teach you from the ground up. You don't have to know a single thing. We go through a process where, you have to get certified to go on missions in the wintertime, but you don't have to know anything at all. We'll happily, have you join our team and then our Winter Skills Unit, and it's fun too. We really enjoy ourselves. We're a good group of people who just have a lot of fun and train hard so we can do our jobs at a professional level.
Indeed. Well, hey, thanks so much, Chris. Is there anything that you wanted to cover that I didn't touch on?
Not necessarily, just for folks who are out there. In terms of search and rescue, we are, we're a team of volunteers, and we're always, like I said, we're always looking for new people. I just want to touch on real quick for the winter time this season, the winter of 2020, 2021, to really take it easy this year, guys. It's been very difficult for us to train in the age of a pandemic, and we understand that there are going to be a lot more backcountry users this winter because of restrictions at ski areas that will be in place. And so we understand a lot of people are wanting to get into backcountry skiing or snowshoeing or any way to kind of get outside. But really, I'm just kind of asking for people to really dial things back this year in particular, just because it's been difficult for us to train. And, it's going to be tough to respond to multiple missions if we're already on one mission. So you'll just dial it back, be aware of what you're doing, and take it easy is the best way to put it. And we'll be there if you need us. There's no doubt about that. But it's different times right now. So that's all I have to say.
Strongly recommend a nice, leisurely, socially distanced, slow walk along the Rio Grande Gorge on the
There you go.
Trail.
Yep, I like that.
All right, great. Well, hey, thanks so much, Chris, for everything you do and for taking even more time out to talk with me today.
No, not a problem, Eric. I enjoy it all.
And don't forget, you folks that are watching, if you made it all the way to the end, you must really want to know more. So I suggest doing it at sar-taos.org, and that'll take you to our homepage, where we hope you'll also kick in a couple of bucks via PayPal or via our GoFundMe page. Helps us keep training, keep doing and learning all these important skills that hopefully we don't have to put into use this winter, but when the worst case scenario hits, we will be ready to do so if called upon. So that's what it's all about. Chris, thanks again. Have a good weekend,
Absolutely.
my friend.
You too, Eric. Thank you.